Welcome to another Western Ag Life Voices podcast, where we celebrate the people that make up the rich fabric of the Western lifestyle. Please do us a favor and thank the sponsors, because without them, we couldn't bring you these free podcasts.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Paul Ramirez with the Western Ag Life Podcast. It's a beautiful, beautiful day in Arizona, and I have she's actually be her second time on the podcast. We don't have very many of those, so we have the one and only Rachel Brownlee coming in live from Nebraska. I'm going to go over just to pay a little couple bills here, and then we'll come right back to you. So stay tuned, Rachel. I'm going to show a property here that you and your husband should look at. For those of you that know that my primarily income sources comes from selling real estate, farms and ranches and agriculture properties. And so if you have a property you want to sell or you want to buy a property, I'd certainly like to talk to you about that. I'm going to show you this wonderful property that we're featuring in the beautiful, beautiful part of Arizona, in Sonoyta, Arizona. This property is a 5-bedroom, does have solar capacity there for producing its own electricity. 3-bedroom, it's 8 acres, has a 6 stall barn, and then also it has a wonderful shop for you guys that are in the shop. This shop is absolutely incredible. It's in a unique part of Arizona. As you can see, there's not much cacti in this area. It's kind of high elevation. This has about a 360-degree view of the mountain ranges that surround this high mesa. Home has a metal roof. As you can see, it has a 3-car garage. Really, really nice. Has a lot of amenities to the property. Places where you can park and pull your trailer in and take them out of the weather, and has great views. The views in this property are absolutely tremendous. And again, this is kind of unique in Arizona here, that you see some grass and water in certain times of the year. There's a lot of grass in this area. And again, like I say, the shop is really big. I'll show you a picture of the barn. And then over here, we have a picture where the shop, as you can see, is over here which be you guys is right. So anyways, this property is for sale. And certainly I'd like to talk with you about it if you're interested. And if you're interested in another property in Arizona, certainly give me a call. I can help you find a horse property or agricultural property if you're interested in that. All right. Well, Rachel, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. What happened this morning in Nebraska?
Well, we are starting our deer hunting season and we're preg checking cows. So in our ranching season, we're going to see if all of our cows are bred and then cull accordingly to make it through the winter. So that is what we are focused on now.
Amen. What are they calling for you guys this winter?
Temperate, I think, possibly a little bit too dry.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Well, good. And when do you guys calve?
Next April.
You guys are calving April. So
Yeah.
I have a friend that's close to you guys, and he calves in January. And man, every year he tells me these brutal stories about his calving and having calves all over the barn and in the house and all over the place. So anyways, well, hey, what I wanted to bring you on here today, those of you that, would like to find out more about Rachel's story, there's an earlier podcast that we did, and we go in depth about, Rachel's life and her lifestyle and so forth. And certainly, I don't want to, Rachel's busy, so we don't need to go into all that detail. If you're really interested and you want to find out in details about, how she became an artist and so forth, you can go back and watch that on that episode. But what I really wanted to bring Rachel on today, I wanted to talk about the beautiful pieces that she's going to have in this current Mountain Oyster show and sale, which is taking place now. It's my understanding the art is hung, and you can make arrangements there. The Mountain Oyster Club is really easy to find on social media. You can just Google it, Mountain Oyster Club, and there's multiple ways to get in there and make an appointment to go and look at that artwork. It's absolutely spectacular. And I don't know, Rachel, do you know how many artists are exhibiting in this year's show?
I have 300 pieces, and most of the artists have 2. So there'll be about 150 artists.
So yeah, it's and this is their 56th, I believe, annual. Yes. So this has been going on for a very long time, and certainly, Rachel, to have pieces in it. When did you start having pieces in it?
This will be my 5th year.
Your 5th year. Wow.
Yeah.
And how many years have you been have you been doing art?
5 years.
5 years. So right from the get-go, you got in. That's quite an honor,
Yeah,
because I,
it
I
is.
talked to several people, and I know several people whose art did not get in the show this year, and they were nice pieces. And so I know they probably have to get, they have to scrutinize quite a bit, I guess, for that show. So it's an honor for you to have three pieces. How many artists have three pieces in the show?
I haven't gone through and looked. I might be the only one, but there might be another. I haven't checked.
I looked in there. I didn't see. There's not very many, so it'd be less than a handful. We can guarantee you
Yeah.
that. We have three pieces in there, so that's quite an honor, and I guess that's a testimony to the art that you're currently producing is absolutely tremendous. And so, we want to let you. You're going to be there. What days are you going to be there
I
physically?
will be there each of their 3 nights, so, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night.
Okay, and then you're also going to be somewhere else in Tucson.
The Settlers West Great American West show, which is their largest show of the year, is also on Saturday. So I
Okay,
will be at that show, in the evening after the Mountain Oyster Club's cocktail hour.
so you'll be busy.
Very.
You're getting a chauffeur in Tucson.
I should.
or the Uber, the Uber
Yeah, you
MO.
guys need Waymo. I like Waymo.
I don't know about that. They said they're going to turn those Waymos loose on the freeway now.
Oh, interesting.
So I would ride in town, but did you ride in one?
I did in Phoenix, and it was
What'd you
really
think?
startling. It was fun. It did abandon me in a parking lot. I got out and then it drove away even though I was supposed to still be using it, and so I had to wait 15 minutes in a parking lot. But other than that, I did really enjoy it.
Oh, well, hopefully there weren't too many vagrants or
No, it
you're a
was
long
okay.
ways you're a long ways from Nebraska when you're in downtown Phoenix lost in a parking lot.
It was an experience.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, now you just probably ruined me for your life on those
Oh,
things.
sorry.
I have a vision of one running off with me or running into a tree or a wall or something. So, anyways, they have had casualty. Well, I wouldn't say casualties, but they have had, I guess, what they would probably consider mishaps. And so, yeah, I think I'll wait till they get that a little bit lined out a little better. Yeah, for sure. But who knows? The last couple times I've been in cabs, or also some of my Uber drivers that I've had, they're pretty scary too. Some of them. So who knows? Maybe. Well, let's go ahead. Let's get to talking. I have all three of your pieces um, available here, and I'm gonna bring them up on the screen, and then can just kind of talk about them as we go through. Are you ready?
Yeah.
This one is incredible. So, what do you call this
Yeah.
piece,
This piece is
Rachel?
titled Empires. It's 40 by 30 inches, so it's pretty large. And this piece is very significant, I feel, for the area that I'm from, but also for the history of Nebraska, but the history of cattle ranching. So the point of this piece was to emphasize how all of the different major nations in the world, including the native nations here, were highly influential in the development of the American West. People think that the Cowboy West kind of stands alone, but it's based on the influences of French traders, Spanish conquistadors, which brought over a lot of the original style of tack that we use, English and French, and the Chinese and Irish laborers. All of those different cultures from the whole world came together to create what we know as the American West. And so in this piece, the background features a map of the world, but this saddle is an F.A. Mia saddle. It's from the 1880s. It was made in Cheyenne Territory before Wyoming was a state. It's stamped Cheyenne Territory, which is really cool. And it's my saddle, which makes it even cooler. It's behind me right
Oh,
now.
for sure.
And it has an original horsehair cinch, which is very cool. But the point of this, the storytelling of this piece includes this 1874 Springfield rifle that was owned by Bartlett Richards, who was the founder of the Spade Ranch. He owned millions of acres, or I should say, ran cattle on millions of acres in Nebraska, which includes the land that I live on. But his ranch headquarters was only about 10 miles from where I am right now. And he got into a big tussle with Theodore Roosevelt over land rights usage. And in the end, he ended up being incarcerated for illegal fencing of rangeland, which was a huge part of the American West's history if you read into all of that. And he ended up dying in that prison. But these are his original branding irons, the Spade Ranch branding irons, and his rifle.
And tell us a little bit about the bit and the headstall, the headgear there you have.
That's an
kind of a unique
1880s
bit.
headstall with that interchangeable bit straps with the buckles, so that if you're riding different horses or young horses versus old horses and you need to swap out bits, you can do that pretty easily. And the bit itself, I don't know a great deal about. It's very old. Other than that, I don't know
It
much
is
about this bit.
pretty cool. And again, you call this piece
Empires.
the empires.
Yeah. So
Empires.
like world empires, but also cattle empires.
Sure. Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful piece, and it's for sale.
Yeah, it's over at the Mo
Just
Club, so you can take a look at that.
and I believe, and they've told me that work is hung now, so I guess you can go to the MO Club and look now, and so start to participate. I love this piece. Absolutely incredible. Tell me the story.
This is called Little Shepherdess, and it features my daughter. And I wanted this to be a portrait of a child, but a different kind of a portrait of a child, because most portraits of children depict them as soft and sweet or innocent. And my daughter is all of those things, but she's also very confrontational. She is a very strong woman trapped in a 6-year-old body. And she is looking you straight in the eyes, and she's not afraid. She's not
It's not backing
questioning
down.
anything. She's just who she is. She's very comfortable with who she is. And I really like depicting people's feet interacting with the earth. And you see that like with Edgar Irving Cowse's paintings. He shows Native Americans, but he shows the whole person, not just a portrait. And so you see
Hmm.
how they interact with the soil under them. And I think that that's, you might say it's grounding, but visually, not having shoes, I think, helps you see a whole person. And I just loved all the different textures and the stick that we found behind our house. And she was so excited to model for me. And she asks me all the time if this piece has sold, and it can't sell yet because of the show being next weekend. But this piece is also a finalist in the Art Renewal Salon, or the Art Renewal Center. It's an international competition for artists, and this piece is a finalist. I won't find out if it's won until January, but you have a chance to purchase a finalist piece, which is pretty cool
Hmm.
all by itself.
Hmm. And then, so the purchaser then could also have some bragging rights, right? Sometime in January. That, I mean, the
Yeah, they
value.
might.
I assume the value would go up dramatically, right? If it had that
If it
recognition.
won, that's an international competition.
So there's an opportunity to
Yeah.
maybe make an investment, right?
This piece is
Well,
30 inches tall by 15 inches wide. I think I forgot to say that.
yeah, 30 by 15. When I first saw it, it's stunning, really, and I'm certainly looking forward to see it in person. So, absolutely, yeah, it's incredible. Tell me, what did she have, like a little apron on, or what? What's her dress like there?
My family is Norwegian in heritage, so I was kind of using some of the clothing choices that Swiss girls would use. So it's like a little apron, yeah.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, incredible, absolutely incredible. And
And my last piece over there is 16 by 20 inches. This piece is titled Sun Seekers. And I am very passionate about depicting the Nebraska sandhills, because I think most people don't know that this area exists, and it is entirely sugar sand. It's this blow sand that you might see on the edge of the ocean, but it's we don't even own a single rock. There are no rocks. It's just pure sand. So I wanted to show what that kind of looks like. These horses are gathering on a hill to get into the breeze and to swat flies, and they're standing on the edge of a sandhill. And if sandhills are overgrazed, or if there's too large of a gopher mound, sometimes the grass crust gets broken, and if it does, then it turns into a blow hole on the side of the hill. So you can see this little itty bitty cliff they're standing on, and it's composed entirely of sand with the grass crust kind of growing around it. And I just like this depiction of what our herds typically look like.
so, Rachel, what size would this piece be?
16 by 20.
16 by 20. 16 by 20. Yeah, it's I'm looking forward to seeing this piece. I'm not looking forward to seeing all of them, but
Yeah.
certainly these are kind of pieces that, I like and so forth. So yeah, it's for sure, for sure. So tell me, just kind of again, we went over your pieces, but just kind of like I know things have. I mean, so you said that you've only really been active about 5 years, and it seems to me, just from my little light, perspective, that I see that things have really dramatically changed as far as recognition for you. Now, any place, anytime. And of course, we had lots of comments when we did our original podcast, but now I think you're getting to that level where, most people. I was at a show this last weekend, and there was a sketch artist there. And of course, when I brought your name up, he was like, oh, absolutely, and he knew exactly who you were. And matter of fact, his daughter came up and she also started having the discussion, about you and so forth. And I mean, he's been a sketch artist for about 30 years, he told me. And he's just absolutely blown away by your talent and so forth. And I think sometimes maybe even a little humbling for him that he says, well, I don't produce work like she does. But he said, I do my best. But yeah, so I mean, so things must have changed a little bit. And I know you're very, very humble, but you know, what what do you think, is there anything that's really changed for you, as far as, your life a little bit now so far?
A lot of things have. In the last year, I was invited to the Legacy Gallery as well as the Coeur d'Alene Art Auction, and those are
Mhm.
two of the most premier sale locations in the whole country. And I think that necessity is the mother of invention. People say that, and so is desperation. And I have been invited to these big shows, which is an incredible honor. The people I'm standing next to, or the artists I'm standing next to, their work is phenomenal, and they've been doing this their whole life. They're the largest names in the whole country, and some in history. But some of these shows I got invited to pretty last minute. They just found out about me and they're like, "Oh, you need to be in here immediately, but we would need 2 pieces in the next month or the next 2 month." And I already have pieces booked out for a couple of years even at this point. So I have had to produce a lot of work on short deadlines, and these are such premier shows that I really want to produce things that look like they should be there. So I have produced the largest pieces I've ever done, and many of them in the last year. So I finished a piece that was 4 feet by 7.5 feet recently for some of these events, and the response has been incredible. People just love looking at them on social media. So that's been a part of it, is that my account has gone quite viral and I have over 40,000 followers now all of a sudden. So there's a lot of people sharing my work, and that's how people hear about it. But also in the fine art world itself, being at the Legacy Gallery and the Coeur d'Alene Art Auction has really promoted my work at a different level. So doing large pieces that have commanded a lot of interest from different avenues of people, so from fine art buyers all the way to people who are just building huge homes, and then huge magazine coverage and publication. Cowgirl Magazine is going to be doing a story on me in the next month. So with all of that together, a lot of people have heard of me in the last year, and I've been to 14 shows a year, so that also helps promote my work.
Mhm. Plus, you have a family and a ranch.
I do, yes. I had to kick the two kids out of here, and I said, "Stay out for 1 hour, please."
Oh, they're welcome in. Shoot, we're a family show. No, it's spectacular. Has to be, and I know you're very humble. We had the good fortune of getting to have lunch with you and your sister. So I feel like got a little better view into who you really are, and certainly a very humble person. And I don't think that will probably ever change. I think one thing that's, to me still is incredible is that you've really not had any really formal training. And I talk to a lot of artists and stuff like that, and certainly they, give kudos to their people that have helped them and so forth as far as training goes, and instructors and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people would be surprised to find that most of what you do is just kind of natural talent. Have I misquoted that?
No, I'm entirely self-taught. I took a drawing class in college, but it was so far below the level that I was at that it was really insignificant. And I have learned a lot of new things and even come up with quite a few techniques that no other artist has ever heard of or is currently using that I'm aware of. So I think some of that should be attributed to a very practical ranch background, which includes a lot of experience working in the shop, wood shop, metal shop, automotive techniques, things that people wouldn't normally ascribe to fine art, but am I'm using some things that I've learned in those avenues in my own fine art practice now, which most people would not do.
For sure. Well, and then too, the essence of, you fundamentally understanding, actual things that happen on a ranch. And, your family has also, ties to farming too. But, just, I mean, you can see that in your work that a lot of times, someone that was just doing, and again, that would be just impressed, impersonating something as far as, either from a photograph or something like that. They just can't, some of those things they can't, like you were talking about the interchangeable buckles on the bridle, that you have in your Empire piece. Those are things a lot of people, they wouldn't even know why that was that way.
I think that's a big part of the storytelling of fine art is if you know the whole essence of what is going on, you know all of the reasons, and if you've been there and you've felt the body language of the horse and you've seen the cows and you know what the soil feels like and the weather and you know why you're out there, and if your life has depended on it or if your finances have depended on it, then you have a very different set of
Different
eyes for looking at it.
perspective. Yeah, definite perspective for sure. And certainly I think that really, really comes out in your work. And one piece that I'm super excited about, are we allowed to talk about the Santa Rita piece?
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little story about that. So the MO Club had basically commissioned you to produce that piece. I don't have a photograph of that piece, but um,
No,
it's,
they asked me to do they are opening a new bar for their members. So if you're a member or would like to be a member, check that out. That's pretty cool. It's a recreation bar of the original Santa Rita hotel bar where the Mountain Oyster Club was started. So with that, they asked me to do a piece to hang over the top of the fireplace, and it is an antique image, I guess, showing what the Santa Rita Hotel looked like when the club was active there. So it has horses tied to the front of the hotel, and there's an antique, beautiful limousine, probably owned by I think the founder of the club is what they said, parked out front. So it's this dichotomy of this transitionary time when there was both horses, but it was also modern technology for transportation in front of this antique hotel, and it's a beautiful piece. And that one will be hanging at the Mo Club, and you could see that as well.
oh, yeah. Again, I didn't know if I had permission or not, and that's why I didn't put a photograph of it because I didn't know where you were with them on that. But I'm telling you, it's worth the trip to the MO Club just to see that piece. What did you name that piece?
The Santa Rita Hotel, the first home of the Mountain Oyster Club.
And yeah, really highly recommend. And certainly as things go on, I will show pictures of it, but I wanted to make sure that everything was copacetic with you, with them. And I know that was a piece that they had commissioned. And how long did it take to do that piece, Rachel?
I don't remember. That was a few months ago. Probably a week.
A week or so?
A week
It's,
at the easel, not any of the research time or anything.
yeah, I mean, it's incredible. Yeah. I would say just because of the ties, and I know it's my favorite piece of yours. And so, uh, yeah, I'm super excited and I'm looking forward. So it's hanging right now also at the MO Club.
I don't know if it's hung yet. It probably will be for the show, so probably by next week.
Well, I hope so. Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I just, tell me what do you think's changed with your audience, as far as, in the last 5 years? Tell me a little bit about, you know, your audience certainly must have changed, right?
Well, initially 5 years ago, it was just local people, and it was ranchers and family members, and they said, "No one will ever pay any money for a picture of a horse because they can look out their window and see one. Why don't you draw something else?" And so I decided that this area was probably not the area that would appreciate that level of work. And this is a ranching area. There's almost no other industry here. So I don't blame them for that at all. But I think that since then, my work has expanded greatly. And I didn't really know that fine art existed. I knew about the idea of depicting an animal. I could certainly draw a horse. I could try to make it as realistic as possible. But I think there's so much more to the idea of fine art, to composition, to the story that you're telling, to showing something but not having to force your viewer to understand your story, but letting them, in some cases, come up with their own. And that's been my study for the last 5 years since I started this. So being able to go to these great shows and seeing the work that other professionally trained artists and going to other museums and things, like the Coeur d'Alene Art Auction is probably the best art museum in the world on that one single day, because those are incredible pieces that are coming up for auction, maybe that have never seen public eye before. So I try to study a lot and see what those artists, what story they're telling and what stories they're not telling, how they compose their images. And I've learned a lot in the last 5 years. And with that, I think that my audience has changed to fine art collectors. I have some pieces now that are in incredible collections, personal collections, but also public collections. And I think that people have just started to appreciate my view, and I am very humbled by that I can sit here on the ranch and draw everything within sight of my front door. So someday, if I become very famous, like NC Wyeth, I think they said everything he ever painted was 30 miles from his house, or 3 miles even maybe. It's very close. But I think that'll be the case. Every single thing I do is my horse or my cow or my neighbor or my landscape. And because I've had little babies for my entire art career so far, I have a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. I have been really limited on what I could do. So I have made the very best out of what I have, which is holding a baby in your arm and standing at your front door, maybe because it's too cold or whatever it is, you can't, naps or fussiness, whatever it is that prevents you from going on big art safaris and taking fabulous photos at Yellowstone or whatever other professional artists do. I've been holding kids and being pregnant and looking out the window. And so everything that people see is basically my whole life.
Great story. So do you, has any, the, I mean, do you feel like the pressure's changed a little bit for you now that maybe, like you were talking about, some of these people are commissioning pieces now, and, 5 years ago you didn't really have deadlines and now you're having deadlines. Is that has to bring another element of difficulty to it, right?
It's so much more stressful than it was. The pressure is so much more. It's so difficult living on a very rural ranch and trying to produce artwork at this level and at this speed, because everything I have has to be ordered in on a freight truck. It has to be custom made. Freight trucks do not like coming out to the ranch. So I have an argument with them nearly every week on the phone. Please come out and bring this thing, or please come out and take this thing. And all my panels are custom made now, so it's nearly a weekly fight just to get my supplies in and out. But now the artwork is quite valuable. So the large piece that I just finished and sold within 12 hours on Facebook to someone who had never heard of me before, sold for $43,000, and it's sitting in my garage waiting for a freight truck to come. And I spend a lot of time praying and asking God to take care of all of this stuff, because it's his career. He gave it to me. There was no way I could have really come up with this sitting out on a ranch by myself. And so if he wanted to keep going, then he'll have to make a way for that to happen. So I pray he protects all the pieces when they travel and wherever they end up at. And just try to not be as stressed about it as I usually am, I guess.
So, Rachel, just to backtrack a little bit, unfortunately, we started having a little bit of cutting in and out. Can you just kind of repeat a little bit about what you said? What was the piece and what was the value? Sorry about that.
Yeah, I finished that 4 feet by 7.5 feet piece, the largest piece I've ever done. And I posted it on Facebook before it was even done, and it sold within 12 hours. Somebody saw it on there. They just loved it. And that's the most valuable piece I've ever sold for $43,000. And I wrapped it up in a crate, but I still have it in my possession. And so it's just stressful for me to own that much artwork that's sold already and to worry about it. I think I feel about them like they're my children. I made them, And so
Oh,
now I have to
absolutely.
send them out into the world, and they need a good coat, and I want people to be nice to them. So I just have to ask the freight drivers to be kind, and I draw little hearts on it, hoping that people will just take better care of it than they would normally.
Yeah, you should cook some cookies or something for those freight drivers.
I do.
Do you?
I
Yeah, there you
I
go.
I tip them with Starbucks gift cards and beg them to
Hey,
be nice.
hey, man. Yeah, if this gets there, yeah, $43,000. Yeah, you're probably not sleeping well till the purchaser receives it, right?
I actually
And
have
is
not
happy.
slept well since I finished that piece. That is true.
Really? Yeah. So, yeah, well, I guess that's one of the changes, and I'm sure there's going to be more changes, certainly coming forward as, more and more people get to appreciate your art. Yeah. And I just kind of, I was thinking, in the lead up to here, knowing that I was going to have you on here, I just thought that probably the pressures would change, you know what I mean? Especially when people are expecting you to produce a piece for them, and on a timeline. And prior to that, when you were just kind of right, just doing pieces and making pieces at leisure, there was a time like that, correct?
Not really.
No.
I did a few drawings, but then once I got into these shows, the Mountain Oyster Club was my first show, and they said, "You need to go talk to Stuart Johnson at Settlers West Gallery." I went over there and he said, "Great, I'd love to have you in my next show. I need 2 pieces down here in the next 3 weeks."
Oh,
So
wow.
that was my advent into the fine art world, and that's kind of where I've been operating at since, but I started out doing about 20 pieces a year, and now I'm doing about 50.
Wow. So you were baptized by fire, basically,
Mhm.
right from the
Yeah,
get go. Oh, so
that
I
is
had a
what it
vision.
felt like.
I had a vision of you just drawing pieces and leaving them around the house, and maybe if somebody wanted one or something. But so, well, I
Nope.
can certainly see by your talent, yeah, that you hit the ground running for sure. I'm sure there's a lot of artists that are going to listen to this that will probably be a little bit jealous because they have pieces that they can look at that have been in their studio or home for a while. So for sure, yeah, definitely. Um, what I guess trying to ask, what do you see maybe coming forward here in the next few years for you? If you, looking into what would ideal situation look like for you coming forward? And you don't have to talk monetary, but just, as far as shows and things you want to do. I'm certainly now, I know things have had to have changed, right? From 5 years ago for you looking forward.
Definitely. 5 years ago, I was still operating Moo Manager, which was the software company that I created in college to manage cattle ranches. And I was still working outside on the ranch. And in the last 2 years, I've had to retire that program, and I am no longer able to work outside on the ranch just because of the deadlines that I keep. I work about 60 hours a week in my studio with my kids, just as it is, without taking care of the house. So yes, I've been very busy, and going forward, I have hired an assistant, so I think that that will help. But there's a couple of other major shows, the Briscoe show and the Preta West art show, the Buffalo Bill show. There are several shows I'd like to get into, so maybe those in the next few years. I'm in the fabulous galleries, so um, technically there's some new things I would like to try, and I need a little bit of space in my schedule to try some new forms of art. And they're not drastically different, but there's some new techniques I'd like to try. So maybe in the coming year, I will do a series of in color, possibly mild color, some cowgirls that I'd like to do, some of my neighbor ladies, fellow ranchers that I'd like to do in a big series. But I think that my future holds mostly large pieces. I love the large pieces. I think that size is kind of its own medium. So these wall-sized pieces in
For
charcoal, there's
sure.
just nobody else working in that size. And so I need to get a really good relationship with an art shipper so that I can stop wasting time fighting with freight drivers. But then I think that that's what my future holds is huge pieces showing more of the Nebraska Sandhills and its history, which is my personal passion.
Mhm. I often wonder, so when someone sees one of your pieces and, they look at it and what, I mean, I guess what does that feel like when when you're at a show or in a gallery and people are looking at your piece, and maybe I'm sure you've been in this situation before where they actually don't know you're the artist, but they're
Oh,
looking at
that's
it.
that happens all the time. I have had many
That
people
has to
say,
be
"Oh,
like,
I didn't think a woman could draw that." And I don't know what a woman is supposed to be capable of drawing versus not, I guess. But
but
yes, I stand there and I listen to people and I keep a tally of how many people cry. And I think this year I'm at 5.
hmm
And those are just people I've seen, and I'm surprised often at how touched people are. They
hmm
say, "I feel like I'm there," or "It brings me back to my childhood," or I feel in this piece that you have a gift from God." And if I was to look at a piece of artwork and say, "What about this defines whether this person is working, through the spirit of God or not?" I don't know what I would say that looks like. But it's an immense pleasure to be at the shows and see people see my work because I know the huge amount of stress that went into it. Sometimes I know that there had been a hard deadline, and so I'm holding a kid in one hand, and another kid is supposed to be doing school, or I'm cleaning something up, and I hold a pencil while I'm getting the mail because I'm going right back to the easel, and I see all of that, and then I see what's finally produced at the end, and a whole year feels like I ran a marathon, and these shows feel like crossing the finish line finally, that people get to appreciate what all of that stress and all of that work went into. And I love all of it. I love producing these pieces. And I love meeting the people who appreciate them and the places that they go.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that must be so satisfying to I mean, I think it would be cool to that they actually don't know who you are and you can just listen to their comments.
Well, most of the time now people do know who I am. "Oh, you're the
Yeah.
tall girl." I am 6 feet tall, so people can
You
usually
stand
find
out.
me.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. You'll definitely stand out. But yeah, that has to be so cool. Just to just watch people's reaction to it, and then really take it in yourself. And so yeah, and so when people look at your pieces, I think you kind of alluded there a little bit to what I was going to ask you, in that you say that there's an emotional response to a lot of people, and I think that's probably the essence of art, right? Is that people actually have it affects them deep inside. And so people that would appreciate your artwork, I'm sure there's undoubtedly when anybody, and I wouldn't care if they've never saw a cow in their life, when they actually see your work, I mean, they're affected. But more agriculture people and people that are from farms and ranches, when they see the detail and they see the essence that you've able to captivate in these pieces, it's undeniable, that you have real life experience in that, and that has to must be so satisfying when those people, and I'll just go ahead and say myself, when I first saw your pieces, I was like, I knew right away that you knew what exactly what should be and shouldn't be, and I think that's one of the, I think that's probably one of the things that is about you that certainly makes you very, very unique, and that's probably why your popularity is gaining and going to continue to gain going forward. So, yeah, it's cool, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for you, because I think we're probably just maybe here in the very beginning.
I think we probably are, and I think that seems like a foolish thing for someone to say about themselves, but I have felt that for the past 5 years, and when people buy my work, I or maybe have considered and not purchased my work, and I haven't wanted to tell them that I don't think that that's a wise choice. If you have the capability, I feel like now is probably a good time.
Yeah, and I'm sure I always wonder, artist. I don't want to say a name, but there's a world famous artist that I know his early pieces, have sold. And now I've heard rumors that he's trying to buy some of those early pieces back
Yeah.
and I know one instance of a piece that he's trying to buy back that has over a $500,000 swing from the purchase price that was paid for it to now the price that he's willing to buy it back for.
Wow.
So, you know what I mean? I mean,
Yep.
and young artists, especially when they're young and not known, sometimes I'm sure they let some of their pieces go that to pay bills. I know you
Oh,
haven't really
absolutely.
been in that situation, but
Well, I probably beg to differ. I mean, when you're on
Oh,
a
is that right?
rocket climb like this, sometimes the investment that you put into a business, in the hopes of it being very successful, sometimes exceeds where you are at the moment. So there have been times that I have been very grateful. I mean, I'm grateful every single time. I'm somewhat blown away every single time a piece sells, but
Mhm.
uh, but there have been times I've needed a piece to sell and it has. So I certainly understand that feeling.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, like I say, probably you're right. Probably, if you're going to buy a piece, it'd be a wonderful time to buy one now. It's because I think it's just going to continue to go up in value, and certainly, yeah. And what would be the worst case scenario? You'd be able to view it every day. Yeah, absolutely incredible. So, tell
And if you
me, do
don't
you
like it, call the Coeur d'Alene art auction and sell it next year.
True. Oh, you won't have a hard time selling it. I'm sure about that, even if you buy it. So tell me, do you have like a dream piece, or is there something that, I know you talked about you wanting to maybe change mediums a little bit or experiment with mediums and different, but is there something that you have in mind right now that, you really like a big piece or something that you are dreaming about doing, wanting to do?
I want to do a large piece featuring our cow herd, a very large piece, like one of my 4 foot by 7.5 feet pieces, featuring our cow herd on our ranch, with kind of the dust coming up around them. And I want to use our landscape and our guys on horses because we still live that exact lifestyle, but I can see that maybe someday, even in my lifetime, that won't be the case.
Oh, absolutely. Changing every day almost.
It is.
Yeah, yeah, to captivate that. Yeah, that was like recording history. You know what I mean? Just like that piece of yours is so profound for me, the Santa Rita, is that you see the horses tied up and you can see that those are horses that were rode in, to the Santa Rita, but then you see that car there and you
Yeah.
know that that was there was change taking place. And yeah, so the way you're able to captivate that, certainly, and it's basically a recordation of history, and so that's really cool. Well, listen, Rachel, I've probably taken enough of your day and slowed down some of your work. So, but I do appreciate you coming on, and like I say, I appreciate you coming on for a second time, and I brought you on, that I wanted to give kudos to your pieces. Let's run through them one more time for those of you that are watching. We're going to go through, and these are pieces that are available, and it's my understanding they're hung right now at the MO Club, and they are for sale. One more time, Rachel.
This is Empires, and it is
Empires,
40 by 30 inches. Little Shepherdess, this piece is 30 by 15 inches.
and this is Rachel's daughter,
Yeah, this is Hedda.
Hedda.
And she'll love you forever if you buy that piece. She'll probably write you a card. This
That
is Sunseekers, and it is 16 by 20 inches.
16 by 20 inches. We'll go back to Hedda. Can we just say that whoever buys it, Hedda will write you a card?
She will. She's a great correspondent. She's an avid reader, and she loves to write, and she loves to write cards. So she will totally write you a card.
Oh, we need to get Hedda on the Western Ag Life podcast.
Oh, she'd talk to you about anything.
Amen. Well, hey, we might have her on.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, listen, Rachel, thank you. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to
Yeah.
checking out the Southwest and your fabulous weather.
Yeah. Let me know, if there's anything I can do for you when you're here for sure. And we look forward to seeing you. And yeah, like I say, hopefully, maybe we could break bread again.
That would be great.
Amen. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we just finished up this podcast here with Rachel Brownlee, artist, and we were talking about pieces that she has that have been accepted and are for sale at the Mountain Oysters annual 56th annual sale and show. And so Rachel has 3 pieces in there. Certainly, you can find. Hey, Rachel, let's go ahead and tell them how they can find you on social media.
Yeah, you can find me at Rachel Brownlee Fine Art on Facebook, or rachelbrownlee.com as my website, or rachel.l.brownlee at Instagram.
Yeah, your social media is blowing up.
It's
So,
been crazy. I've had millions of views in the last week.
and that's almost like a whole nother animal we could probably bring on podcast. How do you maintain that,
It
right?
is. It is.
Yeah, because that can take a lot of time,
It
and
does.
and then also silly guys trying to bug you to get on their podcast. And you don't want to be rude and say no,
I'm
right?
on a lot of podcasts now.
I'll let you go on this one. Ladies and gentlemen, if it's Western, it's probably Western Ag Life. Have a great day.